Yeah, that's kind of bubbly. May have something to do with it being really cheap filament, but overall it's doing pretty good. Yeah, this mess. What's it's using right now is a Triangle Labs J-head hot end, and I feel pretty bad about not using an E3D hot end like I originally wanted, but I was trying to stay in budget when I was building this for my school. Although I will say this, I'm using a genuine Bill Touch, which is a little, I think, yeah, you can see somewhat of the logo on the side. I actually sourced many different, well, not many, but maybe like 4 or so main vendors for this 3D printer. Like the frame, the rods, the bearings, the lead screw came from a website called ZYL Tech. And I can say the prices are pretty fair at the time of purchase of these aluminum extrusions. Although if I were to do this build again, I would have made the main part of the frame with 2040s for stability, because this thing does flex a little bit. I would like to put some kind of steel corner brackets, kind of like I have these smaller aluminum ones. I want to get like some bigger ones to put in the corners here. But overall, it's doing pretty good. One of the main challenges on this thing was to get the steps per millimeter right. But something to note is to watching what I have stored on my EEPROM. Yeah, if I store value into that, I have to make sure to edit whatever I need to do. So like for my extruder, if I'm changing the values of that into my EEPROM and save it onto there, I got to like adjust it through there. For a little while I was trying to change it into code, but I'm not sure what happened, probably because of the firmware or the board. When I was doing the changes and uploading the new code, was implementing what it remembered in the EEPROM. I'm not really too sure about that. But overall it's doing pretty good. I'm using an SKR 1.3. I know at this time right now they already have the 1.4 out, but I was kind of working on this project a little while ago, and yeah. Another quick tip of something I was having issues on, especially with my Z-axis. In the software, I was trying to use a feature that allows me to program how like what kind of steps I want to use, like either 1/16 or 1/32. These stepper drivers I have right now, I forget the name, but they're capable of 1/28 microstepping. So I was trying to set that up in the software, but I was having issues with the Z-axis, not using what I wanted. It was going like half of what I wanted. So what I actually had to do, like, I got an extra board right here. I had to get these things right here orientated like that. So yeah, there we go. I orientated these jumpers right here to what is like that to get the 1/28 microstepping. So the loudest things on here are actually the 2 fans and well, actually the 3 fans that actually exist on it right now currently. The fans on the hot end, the fans on the power supply, and right now I got that fan right there going because I still need to print the housing so that I can have like the control fans to cool down the heat sinks. I'm using that fan right there to cool down the heat sinks and so that I don't burn them up. Yeah. I mean, when I was touching those heat sinks, they did feel pretty warm. Yeah. And the leveling, it's a little shoddy right now. Well, that's because I think one of these 3D printed parts right here is actually grinding against this part during the leveling, so I need to sand like this part right here. I believe it is this one right here that grinds against this part of the extrusion, and it kind of does a little wibble wobble when it comes to leveling, so a little bit of sanding or filing right here will be good. And thanks to the 128 stepper motor drivers, these things are cool. They don't get hot. Unlike the stepper drivers on my Ender 3, those things get pretty hot on their own when they're printing for a long time. But that's because I'm using like stepper motor dampeners, so it's not using the aluminum brackets that they're connected to on stock to cool them down. They kind of do get a little warm, but I do want to upgrade the board on that so that I can add a direct drive, because I do not want to deal with like getting Arduino and all sorts of backdoor stuff to get the direct drive onto there. And I would also like to get the safety features implemented onto there so that I can feel safe. Eventually, yeah, I like to try to do some flexibles with that. So it's a 300mm bed, so, or 300 by 300mm, using a glass right here. And the glass is pretty good for PLA. I also, as you can see, it is black. That's because on the other side I got a matted surface. So that's if I want to do like PTG or other filaments that needs a matte surface, I can just flip the glass and use it for that. The reason why I'm using glass right now is because I'm doing PLA, and PLA just pops once the glass is cooled down. I'm using a dual geared extruder from AliExpress. I get it's a clone of a better brand, but this thing actually does work fairly good. Took a little bit to calculate the E steps right, but I've been printing for almost like 7 hours and no issues whatsoever. Very consistent layers, and yeah.